So the suggestion Justin had would be is we've had a couple of opportunities to review and then ask any questions about the revenue estimates that have been submitted by the town council and the administrator. And I don't know, did we vote on it last year? Do you recall?
What's that?
On the revenue estimate?
No, I don't think so.
I think we must have.
They certainly would be. They'll be very important as a committee of what we're going into in terms of assumptions when it comes out to the
You can't get to a total without the revenue, and I'm pretty sure I remember trying to add to the general revenue take and that kind of thing. So we must have voted on it. I don't think I would have let it go without voting on it.
Right. At some point, it's going to be critical.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of understanding that Mr. Robert could come back, there could be other things that might influence us. We certainly would have the opportunity to come back to it. So I guess making sure we're all, if we are in agreement, that's what either this discussion could be, and if it should come to a vote, then we can bring it to a vote.
I don't ever remember voting on revenue. I mean, I don't even know how to begin to look at that. How do we even change that?
Well, it's the same thing as expenditures.
So
There's
you
no
can
difference.
raise it if you want to say you should make more
Or
lower.
it's going to depend on the items. I mean, just like with the expenditures, some of them are contracted, and you can't really do anything with it unless you're going to say, I don't mind defaulting on the contract. You can do the same thing with revenue estimates. So as a functional matter, there's no difference. And this is key to our final number. So you kind of have to accept their estimates or not.
I would agree. I mean, our last, it's really the resolution or that for the voters is going to have the assumptions on revenue, expenses, the assessed value to say this is what the tax rate will be, that whatever the will of this committee comes up with as the recommended budget.
So all we can really do as a committee is just say to ourselves, we accept these estimates, which is really what they are. And we agree to work within them.
But if there was like an actual and it's, for last year and you see that it's higher this year, you could move that dollar amount to a higher amount if you felt like there was, they've done this in the past, or low, same thing with lower.
So, I mean, maybe to your point, Jay, making a motion to, if this is the number, that to say in terms of our assumptions in terms of moving forward as we look at the total budget and trying to come up with a tax rate, that we as a committee agree or don't agree with these revenue assumptions that are put before us now.
But we decide those, I'm sorry, I'm new, so we decide those items. We don't go back to the council and say, we don't think this is an accurate depiction. Do you need to relook at these numbers, is that correct?
No, they've given us, as of the date 3/15, they were obligated to, 3/17, to submit the revenue estimates. And so they did that on time. And then I think as we move forward, just like the budget, it's up to us to decide whether that could be higher or lower. If any of the committee feels as though there's some, underestimated items that we're going to do a lot better with revenue, and we should build that in, because in the end, that could affect what the tax rate would be. I do think it's a fair thing for us to discuss, and if we agree as we move forward that these are the numbers right now that we'll use in terms of our calculations. I don't see how it binds us, but it is certain it does bind us in terms of what our operating assumptions are when we start making our calculations.
Well, I don't know if we have to. I raised it mainly because it was on the agenda, and I didn't want it to be missed if people had things they wanted to say. And I think there are a couple items I'd like to discuss. I think a lot of the key questions, like the general fund withdrawal, you do last, because when you're looking at the final number, then you can better answer those kind of questions. So just one small example is the stamp tax. That's 4231. this 70,000 is 40% of an estimated 175,000 that the town will take in. We take a lot more in, but the state takes something like 50% or more of it right off the top.
Yeah.
But the town is left with $175,000 by this estimate. Some of us researched this last year, and the reason this is 40% and not the whole thing is that in 1999, a financial town meeting voted a resolution that gives 60% to open space. My understanding of resolutions at FTMs and FTRs has always been it's good for a year. So that one vote of that body almost 20 years ago has committed the town, I think illegally, to allocating 60% of this money to open space. So we could raise this line item to $175,000 and say it all comes to the town. So that's an option worth, well, it's an item worth knowing about, and it's an option worth considering. I'm not going to make a motion to that effect right now unless we're going to really go through the revenue, but that was one item I wanted to bring up. Another, and partly I'm doing this in the spirit of Cecil's commentary. The way they've handled estimates for casino revenue is sporadic, and I think we need to, it would behoove us as a committee to decide whether we think there's going to be a casino at a certain date or not, and then to figure out fire detail, police detail, taxes, and all that. I can tell you the state thinks it's going to open September 1st. The assessor's estimates are October 1st. So some of these numbers could be modified. I think we ought to have a discussion at some point. I mean, I don't know if anybody was prepared to have that discussion about the gaming revenue. There is an estimate that we can get from the state of what they think Tiverton will get in the coming fiscal year. And that estimate is no different than any of the other estimates we get from the state or any other place we get estimates. So there's no reason we can't consider that, let's call it $1 million in our estimates of revenue.
Justin, can I ask you a question? Do you know in any of the research that you possibly did if when Lincoln switched over to, like, how soon they got their revenue when they first did it, or like Newport, what pattern when they added machines in, like when just used historical data when they got?
Well, I haven't done that research, but I do know that the State Division of Lottery Finance Department, which is the department that will cut the checks for Tiverton, does have an estimated number for Tiverton.
Do they also have an estimated pay date?
Well, it's paid in the quarter following, so you get each quarter, but from my questioning, they suggested that that would be counted as part of, when it's earned, so that would be counted as part of all quarters would be counted as part of this fiscal year. Especially for people at home, you may know the law that created our ability to have a casino in Tiverton gave us a minimum of $3 million of gaming revenue. Their read of the law, and I suppose the town council could sue them over it if they wanted to try to test it, but their read of the law is that starts the first full year of operation. So there's no prorated minimum. It's not like if it's open half the year, we get half of the minimum. We get whatever they estimate we'll get for that. And of course, it's an estimate, so it could come in high. I suspect it will. Conversations with some people in Fall River, it's apparently a lot of them are really excited over there, so. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you go to Newport, it's kind of bleak.
Yep.
If you walk through there, it's kind of scary. But I'm just kind of thinking, like, even if we were conservative on that number, where is the catch if it doesn't come in? Like, how would that affect every, taxpayers, and if it doesn't pan out?
Well, my view on that is it obviously depends how conservative you are on the number. But whatever the number is, there's the fund balance, which, as I've said, if it's over 3%, the town council can fill holes with the fund balance. If it's under 3%, per the charter, the town council can declare an emergency and use the fund balance. Theoretically, if they don't want to do that, they could put out special tax bills, but I think that would require like a special FTR. So that's part of what the fund balance is there for, is to protect against those kind of errors and unforeseen circumstances.
So why don't, if not voting on it, I think these are important things, is that for future agenda item is to, that perhaps it will get us towards the last ones as we get really close to say, okay, now we're ready to kind of do our calculations, is making sure that the will of the committee, kind of weighs in terms of revenue, and the casino revenue being one of those. Great.
Can I ask a question about one of the revenue items? 4533 dog fines. Why is it 0? Estimated to be 0, and it was, they've always gotten some. And does that mean he's not going to be fining anyone for anything? Just trying to figure out. 4533 dog fines.
What page?
Oh, the second page of the revenue, toward the bottom. I mean, this town has a lot of dogs. So almost everybody, it seems like. So I'm just wondering.
They probably put it in the fines and costs. You have to remember, these are estimates coming forward, and yes, they still have dogs.
Seems like normally it would be.
They probably put that in fines and costs.
It doesn't look like it's a big revenue generator. One actual year was 275, one actual year was 365.
Well, I mean, I would just like to.
Dogs are getting arrested.
Well, if you had something like an aggressive dog.
I just like to encourage them to behave, to.
Listen, Ruth, I can assure you, they pick up dogs. I had to bail mine out at whatever the
Really?
cost was.
Okay.
And he got in the cruiser with the officers.
Okay, well.
Did he crack the window open? Yeah.
Did they let him look?
If you drive by, it would be like an aggressive dog hearing, or something like that.
Okay. What, yours? Yours got arrested?
Well, we can certainly ask
They're
that
well
at
behaved.
another, whether Denise.
Yeah, sorry,
knows
just a quick one, yeah, sorry.
250, and I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
keep it close to whatever it was, and
Yeah, that's why I'm just wondering why 0? So
I'll send him an email.
would think it would be 250 or something, yeah.
Nancy, can I ask you though about the first one?
Just a
the
small
stamp
thing.
tax? So the actual in 16 was 89.3, the actual in 17 was 89.4. But they're only forecasting 70 and budgeted 60 last year. Why so much of a discrepancy between what we've collected in years past to what they think they're gonna get this year?
Well, stamp tax is the transfer tax if somebody sells supplies. If there is something like a couple of $1 million homes, we're gonna get a lot more in stamp tax, and that would affect this. And I wanna say there was a couple of big projects in those years. We run that by just taking our 5-year averages. That's the only way we can estimate. That's why the council doesn't approve these, but accepts them and moves them forward to get approving this. It's our best guess. It's like, but, yeah, we just run that on 5 years, and, for a while, it is picking back up, as Dave said, the real estate market, but for a while, the real estate market was kind of at a standstill, so there wasn't as many purchasing and selling and purchasing of houses and whatnot. So, that's all that's reflective of. But I can only tell you on ours, we take a 5-year, just kind of average it, and guess what the trend could be.
But we obviously, future meetings, to having perhaps Denise DiMadeira's here in terms of some of the questions, if there are other revenue items. I would think that's what she was actually, before she left, is just trying to make sure, did we have anything else? So if we could, if there are no other, we'll keep this open as a discussion in future meetings around revenue and some of these questions that we have.
So this is
Correspondence, I think I had brought up before. There's none. We'll move on to, we have the site visit. Mike, you can.
Sure, thank you. So Dave, Chief Lloyd knows we're coming Saturday. If not, can you remind him one more time? So as a reminder, we have a site visit scheduled for Saturday at 9 a.m. We're starting at the Senior Center. And then as soon as we're done, Chief Lloyd will expect us on Main Road. I know we're missing 3 people here, but was everyone planning, or can I get an approximate head count? who's gonna be there this Saturday?
As of now, I should be, I can't.
Okay.
I might not be able to stay the whole time, but upcoming's
Just so we have a general idea. I did talk to Jonathan Perry from the rec committee. He will not be able to do the 31st. He recommended that we check with Phil from the maintenance department. He said Phil probably knows much more than he does.
He does, but remember, he is a town employee, and you have to think about it Saturday.
Yeah. So what he said was we can ask, and if he can't do it, then can't do it. So I'll make sure we know that by Tuesday's meeting. Okay, great. That's the update on
I'll talk to him and try to.
that. Okay. And it's only what,
Something in my budget I can take.
it's only what he would want to show us. We don't need to see whatever he doesn't want us to see. If he has certain things he'd like us to look at for future, then.
Yeah, because DPW, Joanne doesn't take care of a lot of that
Sure.
stuff. So, and Phil is,
Right,
because they've done stuff with drainage and.
yeah.
Bill is, Bill's
Bill-
been doing an awful lot. with
Yeah,
these
Bill doesn't
storms.
live around here,
But I
right?
think Phil, we may be able to get him in for an hour, you're only talking for an hour or so.
Yeah. If he has some things he'd like to show us to open our eyes to, then this would be his chance, if he can or whatever, or maybe someone else can. So, would you let me know that?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Talk to him in the morning.
Thank you.
Got it on my list.
All right, so and that's for next Tuesday, so we'll know.
Mike, may I ask, are you thinking of this in terms of the capital budget?
Capital budget.
Because we've already voted on,
No, I said for,
Maintenance
I was saying for future,
But the affirmative can also bring it back as an amendment, as we agreed to.
right. Well, I was just wondering, I was curious if you had any concept of this would be capital expenses where he says, this building's falling down, I need a new one, and,
yeah, I guess it could be everything, from the fields to the buildings, to the sheds, to the beaches, to the lifeguard chair, whatever they think we could come back to and talk about. I mean, right, parking lots, or if it's just something to keep on the radar for people for next year.
This is all gonna be part of that tour?
No, I'm just saying, let's
I
say,
thought we were just doing recreation stuff.
I thought we were gonna look at the
Well-
grounds and the fields.
yeah, so the Parks and Rec Department encompasses a lot. What I'm saying is if Phil has a couple of things that he wants to concentrate on, he could probably,
That is
The-
next Saturday,
the 31st,
but on a Saturday, yeah.
on a Saturday.
with that in mind, could we request that if he has things he would show us, he send us some kind of document for our meeting next week, so we could consider how we want to work that out? I mean, he can point things out to us without necessarily saying, come stand on this dirt lot with me, you know, that.
Sure. Well, he has no idea about this, that's why I'm saying if Nancy says Jonathan Perry can't be there, the budget committee is open to anything that you think.
This will remind or somebody from the other one from recreation can pick it out. Send out some emails, I'll copy you on them, and you can take it from there, okay?
We're just extending the olive
Yeah.
branch in case they want. They might say they don't have anything. We might not have
Well,
anything.
I know when they went before the council, they did.
Well, if you could, if they produced any kind of list or anything, that would be good to forward to us.
I agree.
Okay. If we could now move on to item 7, the minutes from last week, 3:15.
These minutes are a little more succinct.
Two-sided.
Save paper, save us
That-
some.
That mic,
I'm trying
Is
to
it
be
good?
conscious here.
That's what I got, 7:01.
Must have got a printer.
What's that?
You must have got a printer.
No, Jen does it all, that's why I put in the emails. She prints everything for us. And I'm realizing that noted all, strike that. I don't know why that was there. I don't know if I started to say something and I forgot or, sorry, that should be stricken.
Where you at?
sorry.
Under number 1, presentation by Jerry Larkin.
Note it all.
Yeah,
Note it all. I did not mean, I don't.
as long as you're not a know-it-all.
Can, my recollection of that conversation wasn't already spent on the next line on the capital expenditures. I thought it had been voted on and it would be done after the completion of the ductwork. Because it's out to bid, it hasn't been spent yet. I think that's what they voted on before. And I think his comment here was it had been voted on by the council to be spent. That 1.4.
That was
for the
my
ceiling
understanding.
tiles.
They were in the middle of it, or,
I know they just voted on.
That's
it
not the,
again.
you're talking about the ceiling tiles and the lights?
Yeah, I think it's going out to bid, I don't think that,
I thought they're already replacing the lights and the ceiling tiles. We saw them in the school.
no, they're out because they're doing the work, but they'd agreed to spend the 1.4 million because they were already out, but I don't think that money's already been spent, I think it's going out to bid. I think it's been set aside and voted upon. I could be completely wrong, but.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because I think what he had said was that the ceiling tiles, he managed to get the current contractor to absorb putting the ceiling tiles up at his savings.
Is there
So
any
essentially,
kind
we could change that already spent in, strike that, and put allocated.
Allocated, yeah, it's allocated.
Okay.
Yeah, have the
I-
funds haven't been spent.
I can watch the video again. I just have written down 1.4 million capital expenditures already spent. I will check that.
so you wanna hold off on approving these?
I was gonna say, if you're gonna check it, then we'll have to hold off.
Okay, and,
Well,
Is there anything else?
yeah. The last bullet under the number 1, I think we should add $1 increase from FY 17-18 from local funds, just because they're actually going up about 1%, but that's state money. And the first bullet under item 2, I would suggest rate of return goal set, take out the I.
I don't know.
Yeah.
you did set that one, didn't you?
Sense of grandeur.
No, that's why you're all supposed to look over this. That's why you know.
Who's testing us?
I don't know.
So, but,
Number 2,
Eye out.
and then, but it would be rate of return goal set at 7.5% and then strike the rest. The 8.5 is, some towns have 8.5, but,
You didn't say we were trending at 8.5?
no, the rate of return goal, well, I don't recall what she said we were trending at, but the rate of return goal itself doesn't change. That's the discount, that's just,
I thought she had said we were trending at 8.5 at the current time.
we may be, but if that's the case, I wouldn't dispute that, because I just don't remember, but I would put in actuals are trending at 8.5, if that's the point you want to
Everyone
convey.
else agree with that? You want me to strike the rest of that sentence? Starting with the word "and"? Sure. Any disagreement? No?
All right, if there are any other changes, if you could get them to Mike, then we can bring these up at our next meeting. Thank you, Mike. That makes sense. We appreciate it. So you know he's watching all the videos too.
I do, watch every single one of them over again.
Thank you for doing that.
Otherwise, it's-
Okay, are there any other documents? Any other business?
I just have one. So, at Monday's school committee meeting, they talked at length about our meeting with, the auditor coming. And there were some really good comments that were made there, and one of the things that was brought up was an open invitation for us to have a meeting with the school committee, the town council, and them, to kind of all sit down and clarify on some of the comments that were made. There was also a reference to some documentation that they had from the audit company, saying that they were in good standing. So I think as a committee, that's something that we should think about having them back to, they did listen to the auditor, and is maybe get some clarification from them and what documentation that they have from the audit company as well.
Well, I'd like to have them, as long as they all come, because I was a little annoyed with what happened with Larkin last time, like he came in.
Dr. Larkin, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
I personally think he has an attitude, but he came in and said, blah, 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 that's it, I'm not gonna say another word, nobody else is here, goodbye.
Yeah, that wasn't.
And I did not like that at all. He should have not come at all and said, you know what, I want us to all come as a group, and I'm not prepared to tell you anything. I would have accepted that. I'm real crazy about the way he did it. So, like you say, if you can get them all here,
Yeah, I think that would be an opportunity
that would be good.
to have that conversation and to kind of, go back from what, because we're taking what the auditor said as, fact, so let them come and present. And have the financial person there for the district.
Oh, I agree.
And I think it's an open conversation to have all three committees, because I think what happens is one meeting is held and something is said at that meeting by that body, and then the next meeting is held by the next body, and then, we're all kind of going, now what was.
well, I've also, yeah, that's true. And there's also been a lot of cases like, it just happens innocently, like Denise will, well, not Denise. Somebody will say, well, they don't remember who they said what to. Did they talk to us? Did they talk to the town council? Did they?
This body did this, or that body did
Right,
that,
so
and there's nobody here from that.
If
group.
we're all together,
It's a great way to kind of add, also too, as elected bodies, I mean, we're supposed to be, working towards a goal for the taxpayers and the residents here. So having all those bodies together to kind of air it out and to be open and honest, and I don't think it was a bad thing.
I would agree with Jay, though, on what Mr. Larkin did. I think it would have been better if he sent us a letter with what he read off the paper and then suggested that we meet with what he had a whole different idea of another group of school committee members or something. That would have saved us some time, and so I didn't like it either. I'm just saying that. And also, I just want to mention, along the lines of the audit, that the reputation of the company is very high, of that audit company in the area. So I just wanted to mention, I found that out. So.
Ruth, what I would encourage you to do is to go back and watch their meeting, especially kind of when they're kind of talking about that, because one of the things that was said, if it's in fact, was that they have a letter from the audited company saying that they're in good standing, and that they are
From what
willing to
date?
present that. So if that's from that company that you state has a good reputation, then let them bring that.
Wait, what was the date of this letter you're talking about?
The letter, you have to watch the
Monday,
meeting. but
Tuesday's YouTube meeting, this
Tuesday
past
evening,
Tuesday.
that at the completion of the audit, they had a letter from the auditor company saying that they were in good
The school
standing.
department is in good standing,
the-
you're
Yes,
saying?
from
The
the
tr-
company that you're saying has a
The
good
transfer of those funds that were sitting in that state account was under question, and apparently they spoke to the auditor about that, and the auditor said, okay, you're right, and said, yeah, you guys are good.
Well-
So versus what she said to us.
That's not.
No, I watched the video and that wasn't how I understood it. But what both the letter from the auditor and the statement about the funds in that IDEA account, nothing was done improperly as a matter of accounting. That doesn't mean that everything, that there weren't questions that an elected official should ask about it. It was just, you crossed all your Ts and dotted all your Is, here's your letter of good standing. That's a different thing than, say, a forensic audit where you go in and you say, okay, this is an odd expenditure. It's legal, there's nothing inappropriate about it. And the one thing that struck me about that particular item with the salaries, I don't need any more convincing after, they leave some salary in purchase services because of special education students. That's fine by me. I've noticed that $800,000 difference before. It's just sometimes how it goes. But the money that went into the federal, state remained in the federal grant, sort of floating and carried over year to year. They didn't address in their meeting why they would do that. They just said it's legal. Well, yeah, fine. I'm not filing complaints that they broke the law with
I
that.
think they said they had permission to transfer that year over year.
No, they said they see it transferred, they've seen it transferred before. But the question is why, in 1 year, you would stop.
Why don't, on this conversation, because we can hash it out, what we heard, what we saw, it's just easier if we have everybody here, and ask
Yeah.
these questions, correct?
I'd like to have the auditor back.
Well, I would like to at least give the school committee and the opportunity to come back as a whole and to, I thought they had a great idea that we all meet again.
Well, on that, I'd like to make some points. The first is that, in my view, Dr. Larkin presented their arguments. He did it in a letter. He did it in a way that didn't let us ask any questions, but he said, these are our arguments. So we've been presented with that. We have a meeting at the beginning of this process where we all the bodies get together, and usually it's just a big joke. Let's see how fast we can get out of here. Here's our numbers. Okay, see you later. I just don't know how productive, and not only that, but in the past, and what I thought Dr. Larkin's presentation was going to be, what it usually is one or two members of the school committee come in with the superintendent, the business manager, and possibly their attorney, and they run through their budget with these are our line items. And we can't change them, but they do that informative thing, and we didn't get that, which bothered me to some extent, especially as he's complaining that Open Meetings Acts might have been violated in the past. All this to go, I'm not necessarily averse to everybody getting in the room. I don't know how productive it would be, but it can be done after the budget process, because we don't, unlike say the CRC, we aren't disbanded after the budget season. We could meet all year if we wanted to. I think that would probably, from a scheduling standpoint, unless people think that this particular conversation is going to have a bearing on the number we put on the ballot at the FTR, I think.
I think two things that make it a little unique there was the fact that that presentation by the auditor and the fact that she came in and only discussed that made that a little unique too when Dr. Larkin came in. And I think he was clear too that they had missed a meeting due to the snowstorm, so that they had not been able to, they had missed their meeting prior to ours.
Do their homework earlier.
No, but he presented his arguments. He just didn't want to have any conversation about it.
Well, I'd recommend that we extend, the offer to meet. And it's 3 bodies, and whether it meets on one of our dates that we need to do between now and April 5th, or one of the school committee meetings or town councils, by all means. But I think in the spirit of elected bodies kind of talking these out, I'd support it. I'd be happy on behalf of the committee to send them to say, yeah, we would welcome a meeting.
After all our other meetings, because we're very busy until then, so it would be later on, you're saying?
I can find, right.
No, I'm just asking for not to do it during two meetings a week that we already have.
I just
I
want
think we plowed through pretty quickly tonight, so
Yeah.
I think we're
Might-
in good,
Okay.
we're in good standing at this point.
Okay.
my question
It
is,
doesn't have to be one of ours, that we could go to theirs.
It may come to that.
Yeah, like, they,
I don't mind where it's done or how, that's fine.
Well, I'll at least say that we're willing, we have these meetings, we definitely have our deadline of the 5th. I would agree, I think we've got some bigger accounts to go through, but they may not end up being as lengthy discussions, who knows?
we know our, I mean, they're not asking, they're doing maintenance of effort. I mean, I know we held the vote tonight, but
Correct.
really, we can't vote for anything.
this meeting that starts the beginning of the budget process, which I agree, Mr. Katz, I think that's a formality. It's sort of a joke that we do that. To be honest, it's a waste of time. Is that in the charter? That's in the charter.
Yes, that is in the
Absolutely.
charter.
in the charter.
So why don't we, as a budget committee, put in something to the charter review committee to change that? Wouldn't that be advantageous to save time for all of
I was
us?
actually surprised, it being my first one, how fast we were out of there. It was like,
I
hey,
mean,
we all made it to the.
I want
Yeah,
you-
so-called-
I
because
want
because they don't
your-
have the budgets yet ready.
What's that?
Because they don't have their budgets ready at that time,
That's what I'm
so.
saying. Why are we meeting then? Why, I want
There
Miss,
wasn't even like, hey,
Oh,
this
it
is
is
coming down the
pointless.
pipeline.
I want Mr. Katz's opinion on that.
Getting all together. is
Shouldn't we do
pointless.
that in the
Yeah,
middle of the
there's no-
budget
there was no
season
reason
and
for
bring
it.
everyone
First
together?
meeting of the year.
Or maybe before the voting?
I mean-
Seems kind of silly to
Well,
do it in
it-
the beginning. There's nothing to say.
I would
No,
say.
but no, I think that's, by this point, they've already voted on their budgets. So we were just asking them questions. I mean, that meeting would be the one where you would get together and they could say, here's a whole bunch of stuff that, here's what we're doing, fund balances, oh, we don't agree with that policy, could you change this? I mean, that's the conversation you could have at that point. I think that would probably was the
I attended that
rationale.
meeting last
done
year.
that.
No, they don't do that. So,
At the beginning?
I
So I'm
attended
just-
that meeting last year, before I was on the budget committee, when you guys were on the budget committee. You went to that meeting, remember? It was at the library, remember we sat there, anyway? And sat down, and town council said, we don't have any numbers yet. And the school committee came, well, we don't, and everyone just got up and left.
So how about this? How about having hors d'oeuvres and drinks? I mean, food and drinks so we can all chat with each other or something.
Right.
We have to put that in for next year. We'll have to vote that
All
one.
right, maybe that's a charter review submission.
Right.
Well, let's not forget one thing, though. I mean, I agree, it would be nice to get all together and hash things out and find things out. But at the end of the day, there's not a damn thing we can do about it. They've only asked for $1 more. There's not anything we'd want to do about it. It would just be really an information thing for the public and for us.
And I think it's nice for them to be able to respond with everyone.
Well, yeah, so
But I think when you're.
it might clear the air a little bit.
But I think even though it's $1 more, you're the most expensive part of the town to run. And I think it's only right to come and just present what all your departments are, even if you're asking for $1. Same with the library,
Well,
same for any of the departments.
Just
I'll
never
agree
lose
that-
sight of the one fact that they are, and they'll tell you this till the cows come home. We are autonomous. Another way of them saying that is, we'll do what we want. And it's true. You give them amount of money, you're mandated to give it to them, you have no choice, and once they get it, it's theirs.
But,
But they're,
And we only recommend.
but they also have a budget process and open meetings and all those
Well, they
things.
do
We
within
choose-
their own organization, though.
Right. No, but where citizens can go to.
Yes, you can, but none of us, nobody in the state can tell them no. Can tell them, you're gonna take $1 million less, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. We can't,
well,
the
wait,
governor
I
can't.
thought the
No.
auditor went
The state
and
can.
had some
The state can.
communication with the state on the issue.
They said that, well,
The state told them something.
one of the things that was brought up at that meeting too is that their conversations between the audit company and the school department was all done electronically. Like, no one from the audit company ever physically came down here this year. That was said in open meetings, that everything was electronics. And like when she said they didn't have access to their ledgers, they most certainly did.
Well, I did, to say that the budget committee is willing to meet. And we have our deadline, and we can't jeopardize that. So if there's something that happens, but I'd be happy to extend that to the chair.
Just have a conversation.
Okay. All right,
well,
with that,
my preference, I mean, the complaint here is that the auditor came to this body and presented information. Now, the school committee has discussed that in their meeting, so some of us have, and other interested citizens can find out that perspective. I would agree it would be appropriate for them to come present that perspective to this body, because it was before this body that something else, but a joint meeting of all the bodies of the town, I think has a potential to devolve pretty quickly and not be very helpful. So my preference would be that we schedule them at or one of our meetings if they want to make their case to this committee. I don't know why we necessarily have to initiate a new type of meeting within the town, especially on our tight schedule.
Did Dr. Larkin say that he was going to come with the rest of the committee? He said something about the future.
well, I think what we,
Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, well, the tradition is for them to come and present it to the budget committee, so I don't see any reason to change that. I actually was pretty upset with the way he did it, and I don't really feel like, changing the whole way things are done after that much. So that's my feeling on it.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm just gonna say it. I respect Dr. Larkin. I didn't like the way he did it either, because I'm a volunteer to the town, sitting here for the first time, and I really looked forward to getting a lot of information. I had a lot of questions, so when he stonewalled the budget committee and talked about open meetings violation possibly, I felt a little stunned, and I was a little turned off by that. I'm just being honest. I have an immense amount of respect for him and everyone on the school committee. I wouldn't necessarily go to a school committee meeting or a town council meeting and say those things, but, to each his own. I would love to have them come back, or at least need to come back, and talk about it in a very civil manner.
Right, because now they've had time after the snow cancellation, they have time to put it together, maybe, and come back.
For an invite.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Don't fight over it.
We are-